Alright, you will be using some graphing calculators in order to do some technology activities. We have two different ones, which is basically they're the same ones. We have a TI-84 Plus that has to be charged on the charging station, and then we've got the TI-84 that has batteries in it. So I'm going to use the one from the charging station. Just some general information. First of all, the on button is way down at the bottom. If I'm turning it on, I'm hitting the very bottom key, says on. Turns my screen on. If I want to turn the calculator off, notice that the off is in blue above the on, so I have to hit second function, that blue button up there, and then the on button, and then that turns the screen off. Resetting the calculator, for whatever reason you'd want to reset your calculator. First of all, I have to turn it back on, so I'm going to hit the on button down at the bottom. My screen is now on. Tells me that I am going to do the second function, which again is the blue one. So I'm going to hit that one, and then I'm going to hit the one that says mem on it, which is on your plus sign. So if you look over here on your plus sign, right above that it says mem. So I'm going to hit that, and basically then so second mem. I should get this screen right here that says something about the memory on the top. It then says we're going to press 7, 1, then 2. So choice 7 says to reset. If you see choice 7, 1, I'm going to reset all the RAM, so I'm going to hit 1, 2 to reset, and basically it's going to clear whatever out that was stored in the calculator, so it's just like it was brand new. If you need to adjust the brightness, you are going to press the second key, which again is the blue one over there to the side, and then you're going to hit the up or down arrows. I don't really see it changing a whole lot for the brightness, but that's there. And clear screen, that one probably you will use. Underneath that circle thing, you can see the button that says clear. Clears your screen that you're typing on. To return to your home screen, the reason you'd want to do that is, say you had a graph on your screen like that, and I want to get back to the home screen, and the home screen is where you do your math. You're going to hit second, which is the blue one, and then the quit, which is the mode right next to it. Notice quit is above that, so second quit gets you back to the screen where you can type problems in if you happen to be on a graphing screen or a stat screen or something else, to get back to the main screen. Alright, on our graphing calculator, we are now going to enter in a list of data. So to do data in a list, you're going to use the button that says stat on it. Right there's the button that says stat on it. I'm going to press stat, and then I see this on my screen. I'm going to hit 1 to edit that list. I will see this. And then I'm just going to put my numbers in, and I'm going to hit enter between each number. So I'm going to go down to the bottom list, starting with the 25. I'm just going to put 25, enter, 22, enter, 18, enter, and so forth. And that bottom one, if you'll notice, it says L1 and in parentheses the 20, because you had 20 numbers on your list, so the 20th one should be your last one. And then it should say L121 that we're not going to put anything in because we only had 20 numbers on our list. So now we have those numbers in our list, and you can use the arrow keys to cursor up and down to see all the numbers on your list. Once you have that data in your list there, if you would want to get rid of that data, you would go up to the top, and so you're highlighting list 1, and then you would hit your clear button and enter. I don't want to clear it out of there, but if you would want to take the data out of there, if there was something on there, you go up to the top where it says L1, highlight that, and clear, and it will clear that whole list out of there. And when you're done, you can just hit the Stat button. That goes back to the Edit menu, or if you want to get back to the home screen again, you hit Second and Quit, and that gets back to the home screen. But again, if you just want your list there, second function, 1 to edit list, that list stays in there until you clear it out of there. Now if we want to sort it, we are going to hit the Stat button. Again, next here, Stat, and you will see that number 2 is Sort A. Sort A sorts ascending. Sort D, which is number 3, is descending. There is also a clear list option there. I'm going to sort A, so I'm going to hit number 2. But then what I have to do is tell it which list to sort. So in blue above your keys, you see L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. We want to sort list 1 because we put our list in list 1. So again, we have to hit the second function, the blue key, and then go down to number 1 so that it says on our screen, sort list 1. I like to also close the parenthesis, which is right there next to the division key, and then I hit enter down at the bottom. And it just shows you that it's done, that it sorted list 1. But in order to see the list, you have to go back to your Stat option. So I hit my Stat button again. I go to 1 for edit. There it is. And then it shows me my list, and now my list is all sorted and in order. You're going to write those down on the bottom of your paper in order. All right, we are also going to use Excel to do a number of things in statistics. So the first one again is just sorting your data. You're going to open Excel. Now I have Excel 2016, I believe it is, on my computer, so it may look slightly different if you have an older version of Excel, but it should roughly work the same way. What we're going to do is we're going to just type our list of data in column A. And so again, I'm going to just type the list that's on the paper with the 23 people employed, and it starts with 7. So I'm going to hit 7 and enter, 2, enter, 37. Oops, better get 37 in there, enter, and down my list. So 32, 27, 22, 16, 11, 6, 1, 36, 31, 25, 34, 34, 34, 29, 29, 24, 24, 24, I got a dot in there I got to get rid of, 24, 9, and 9. Now you can see on the screen, hopefully, maybe, if you're close enough, that next to 9, that last 9 is the number 23 because I started in 1. They are going to, there is another way to see your data if you didn't start in 1 and can see that you have 23 items, which is the count, and I'll show you how to use the count in a little bit. But it's always good to double check, and if it tells you there's a certain number of items on your list, to make sure that you have the same number of items that you've typed in, just in case you've missed one of the items. But if I'm going to sort this, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select those values by clicking and dragging, using my left click button, dragging down on my number. Over here on the top of the screen, there is a sort and filter option. We can see it here. It's way on the side. And so my sort and filter option is way over here on the right side, if you can see that. On my sort and filter option, I can sort smallest to largest or largest to smallest. I'm going to sort smallest to largest. Click on that. And then if I go back and look at my list of data, you can see now they have all the data sorted in order. When we do a lot of our statistic stuff, you need to have your data sorted in order. So you can either do it on the graphing calculator or you can do it in Excel. Now if you do want to do the count, if you started in a different box other than one, you are just going to go in some separate box. It doesn't matter. We're going to put a formula in there, and when you put a formula in there, you have to start with the equal. So I'm going to hit the shift and the, oops, I'm going to hit just the equal. I don't need the shift on there. Hit the equal on my keyboard, and then I'm going to type in the word count. C-O-U-N-T. In parentheses, I'm going to do my range. So I would just start with the first one to the last one and highlight it. And then when I close my parenthesis and I hit enter, it's going to tell me, yep, there were 23 numbers on my list. So in case I didn't start in box 1 and go down where I can just see it lines up with 23, if I want to count my data, I'm going to put that formula in there. I use equal, the word count, and then in parentheses, the range of my numbers. Just click and drag over it, and it will count up how many items that you have on that list. All right, we are going to use our graphing calculator in order to make a histogram. And so first of all, it says you need to turn your stat plot on. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit the blue button. Stat plot is above the Y equals. So second stat plot. Now I've already turned my stat plot on. You can see the stat plot on number 1 is on. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and then back on so you can see what I'm doing here. So if the cursor's blinking on it and you enter, that's going to turn it off. So now if I go back to stat plot, you'll see that all of my plots are off. You want to make sure those are all off. A quick way to do it is to hit number 4. 4 will turn all your plots off. Now I want to turn my plot back on. So I'm going to hit 1. I'm going to hit enter on the on. Then I have to select the type I want. I want the histogram, so I want that one in the middle highlighted. If it's not highlighted, go ahead and highlight it. I'm going to enter on that. The X list should be list 1 because that's where we're going to put our data. Color you could change if you wanted to. I am going to go ahead then and hit my stat button. I want to put my data in there. I've already put the data in there, but again, when you hit stat and you hit number 1 to edit, you can then type your data in there. So if you have your data in there from before when you sorted it, you can just leave it in the sorted order. Otherwise, you'll need to re-enter your data into list 1, which I already did. So now, after I have my data in, I'm going to zoom in on that. So I'm going to hit zoom up here at the top. And then I'm going to use number 9 to zoom in on my stats. And then it puts my graph in there. Now we need to change the window on that graph so that it matches up with what we want to have for our histogram. So I'm going to go to window. For our histogram, we wanted the initial class boundary of 0.5. So 0.5. We want our ending class boundary of 45.5. 45.5. Our scale on that, we want 5 equal classes. So if we do 45.5 minus 0.5, we would get 45. 45 divided by 5 is 9, which means our X scale is going to have to be 9. We want 9 in between each of those. My Y minimum, I'm just going to make as 0. My Y maximum, I'm going to make as 10. You would want to make it larger than your highest number. We don't know what it is, but we could always change it. Once we have our window fixed, we're going to go over here and hit the word graph to see our graph. Now I should have my histogram showing. If I want to know how many items are in each of those, I would use the trace button. So I'm going to use the trace button up here on the top, And you'll notice that the little cursor's on top of the first bar. The N equals there says there's 6 in the first one, 2 in the second one, 6 in the third one, 8 in the fourth one, and 1 in the last one. And there is my histogram. I've got 5 classes, so I have 5 bars there, starting from 0.5 and ending at 45.5. And I can go ahead and sketch that on my paper. So we're going to create a histogram using Excel. Again, you'd have your Excel option open and you'd put your data in. This is the same list of data that we did on sorting, so I just left my data in there. It isn't sorted now, but it wouldn't matter on this one if you have it sorted or not. I'm going to just undo. Oops, nope, I can't get it to undo here. I was going to undo a few times and unsort it, but it's not letting me do that. So I'm just going to leave my data there, but it is the same data as I had before on the previous problem. If you forgot to, or if you don't have that saved, you can retype in all your numbers. So we are going to put in our histogram. It says enter the data in column A, which we did. Enter the bin range for your X values in column B. So your bin range is going to be your boundaries that you have. You can use the upper values, or if you want to put space before your histogram, you can start with your beginning value of your class range. So it says for our class boundaries, we want an initial class boundary of 0.5 and an ending class boundary of 45.5 with 5 equal class widths. So for the bin range of this problem, we're going to start at and take the 45.5 and subtract the 0.5, which gives us 45. We divide that by 5. That means that 9 is going to be the class width for each of them. So then we start at 0.5 and add 9 to each one. So in column B, we're going to start with 0.5. If I add 9, I have 9.5, and add 9, 18.5, and keep going, 27.5, 36.5, and then it said 45.5 was our ending boundary. So we're putting our class boundaries in there, and we would have to do a calculation on that, which once you are going through chapter 2, it will talk about how to find that. But you subtract the lowest one from the highest one, divide by how many widths you want, then start with your lowest one and then add that amount of the width to each one until you get to the upper class boundary. So I got that all entered in. So now what I'm going to do is go up to the top. It has the word data. These things up here are called tabs. I'm going to click on the data tab. And I'm going to go over here to data analysis, which again, data analysis was way over there on the right side. So I've got to turn this over a bit. But you can see way to the right is the word data analysis. If I click on that, we want to do the histogram. So depending where your thing is showing, I got to slide down a little bit. They're alphabetical. I can find the word histogram right there. And I'm going to hit OK on histogram. For our input range, we want column A. So we're going to go over to column A. See if you can see that. I'm going to slide this over again. And we're just going to click and drag over column A. So I'm going to click in cell A1, drag it down to cell A23, fills it in. Our bin range, we're going to do column B. So I'm going to start on B1, drag down. Now I've got that in there. Under the output options over here, we are going to select the output range. And then you would select whatever cell you want your histogram to start in. I'm just going to click over here on cell D3. Doesn't really matter where you put it. I got to put my cursor in that box first. I didn't have my cursor in there. Now I can click in D3, and that just tells it that's where I'm going to put my chart. We are also going to go to click the box next to chart output. If any of these are checked, make sure they're not checked. The only one you want checked is the chart or output one. And then if I hit OK, there's my chart. Now, technically, a histogram should have its bars touching. You'll notice that this one does not have its bars touching. So we are going to do some editing to make our histogram look more like what a histogram should look like if you look on the next page. So first of all, we are going to right click on one of the bars. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to right click on that first bar and select Format Data Series. So I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says Format Data Series. And then you'll notice over here, way on the right hand side, again I got to move this over, you'll see a thing that says Gap Width. You want the gap width to be 0. So you're just going to grab that little thing and slide it over. And now if I look at my histogram, there isn't any space in between the bars, because a histogram, there is no space between the bars. On a bar chart, you would have space between the bars. On my histogram, if I want to get to my chart styles, I just go and double click anywhere. Up on the top is going to change the styles of your chart. If you notice the top menu up there changed. Another little thing on here, once you have your one that you want, because you could pick a different chart style if you wanted to, depending on what you want. But if you do change this chart style, notice now it changed my gap width again. So I have to still go back and right click on a bar, Format Data Series, and change that gap width back to 0 over on the right hand side. But there's different options, but if you do change the options, it's going to put those spaces back in there. See if I can find the one I had to begin with. Alright, I'm going to go back to just the very first one in there. Go back, right click, Format Data Series, change my gap width to 0. Now if you wanted to change other things on your chart, for example, sometimes people will put that it's up to 0.5. You can go over here where it has the bin range, and you can just kind of start adding the words up to in front of the 0.5, up to. So it's more specific when you're showing your graph that you don't have any numbers going up to 0.5. Evidently I can't type 2, so I better fix that. And again, you could just go in each of those and add up to. And you'll notice when you do that, it updates it on your chart. You can also get rid of the more, because you really don't need the more in there. It only goes up to 45.5. Same thing, you can edit these labels. If you don't want one there, you can just delete it out. You can change the names of the labels. If you click up there, you could change the name and edit them. You can change the colors by clicking on the bar and then right-clicking. Format, oh, that's the label. If I right click on the bar over on the side, it will maybe show up on the one with the gap width, but if you click on the first one, that's the fill in the lines. So I could change my fill. Right now it says at automatic, but I can change my fill color, and I can make the fill color different. If I want just one bar instead of all of them, I want to make sure just one has the dots around it. If you can see that. And then I can change the color of just one of my bars, and then I can change my graph and make it look pretty for whatever presentation I might want to be doing, depending on what you like and your needs are. But that's how I would change those bars. So if I go over here, I have my fill options. I can change my border if I want to change my border, and shadows and those kind of things. But the main thing is to make sure your histogram has a 0 for your gap width in between. And then if you want to change it and make it look more pretty, change your labels, etc. I'm going to get rid of the word bin there. I don't want that on my graph. And I have a histogram that looks something like that when I'm done. If you're continuing working and you want to just do it all on the same spreadsheet here, you can click the plus down on the bottom, have a new sheet, and then you can do your next part of your technology assignment all in the same workbook instead of having a whole bunch of different ones. Okay, we're going to do a categorical frequency table, which means I'm going to use data that is not numbers, in this case blood types. And so first thing I have to do is type my blood types in there. I'm going to have my caps lock on so that it goes in caps, A, and then I have B, B, A, B, and O. And then in the next row I have O, O, whoops, O, O. My enter's not working very good. O, O. And then I have B, A, B, and B. Then the next one I have B, B, O. And be careful when you do the A, because it's going to want to maybe try to do the AB. Make sure it just stays A, it did, and O. And then I have A, O, 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 A, B. And then I have A, B, just a plain A, O, B, and A. Okay, I've got my 25 entries in. It tells me up here in cell B1, I'm going to type in blood type, B-L-O-O-D-T-Y-P-E. And if you want to expand that, you can go up here on the top. Whoops, after I enter that in. And if I slide that over, it gives me just a little bit more room. When I have those crosshairs, I can slide that and make my column bigger or smaller. And my blood types, I have A, B, O, whoops. Again, it doesn't want to enter B, O, and A, B. Sometimes have to watch because it likes to autofill from previous stuff. So when I did the B, it tried to put blood type in there, but I didn't want blood type in there. Then we got to do count, C-O-U-N-T. And then when we do our count here, we are going to use a formula on there. So it says here in cell C2, which is what I'm clicked on, that I want to go up to the formula tab. The formula tab is up here on the top of my screen. I'm going to go over here to insert function. And then where it says or select a category, you want to change that so it says statistical. It probably says most recently used unless you used statistical last, but whatever one it says, make sure you click the drop down so it says statistical in that box. And then under there, if we slide down, you should see a function that says count if. Make sure you get the plain count if, not the one with the S on it. C-O-U-N-T-I-F, count if. That's the one we want to use. So I'm going to hit OK there. The range, I want to count my range from over here. So I'm going to copy it or I'm just going to highlight it from cell A1 to cell A25. My criteria here is that I want it to equal for this box the A. So I'm going to type the A in there. And then I'm going to hit OK. It should count how many A's you have in this list in column A. Same thing for B then. Just to repeat that, in C3, I'm going to go insert function. It should stay on statistical. I'm going to go down to count if. There it is. Hit OK. My range is the same. I'm going to go from A1 to A25. This time I want my criteria to be a B. And if I hit OK, it should tell me how many B's. Now, you can do the copy function. If I grab that little handle and I pull that down, it's going to copy that function down. And notice when I click on cell C4, it's counting still the B's. I don't want it to count the B. I want it to count the O. So up here in my formula bar, I'm going to go and I'm going to backspace over the B and I'm going to put an O in its spot. Same thing in cell C5. I don't want it to count the B, which is what it copied. Oh, wait a minute, it changed my formula. Never mind, I got to fix that. because it changed my formula from A3 to A27. Never mind, that's not working very well. Let's delete those out. We'll just retype them in. So, insert function, statistical, I'm going to go down to count if, hit OK, do my range, and the criteria there is going to be the O. And then I'm going to do the same thing, insert function, go down to count if, do my range from A1 to A25, and then AB on this one, AB. Okay, so we had the computer count those up for us instead of us having to manually count it. Then what we are going to do is we're going to do a sum. So in cell C6 down here, we are going to go to the formula tab, which we're on, and you'll see this one next to it. That's your summation symbol. It does auto sum. If you click on that, it does the sum, and you notice in the box it's doing from C2 to C5, and that's what we want it to do. So I'm just going to enter there, and it should say we have 25 things, which we do. Now, if I want to do percents, I'm going to go over here to column D. I'm going to label that percent, P-E-R-C-E-N-T. And then we're going to do some formulas. To calculate the percent, we have to take the value that is in this case, C2 divided by our total, which is down here. So what we're going to type in is we're going to hit equals. And you can go ahead and just click on cell C2, and then you're going to hit the slash for divided by, and then click on the cell C6. That's going to give me 0.2, which is my percent as a decimal. We'll change it into a percent in a little bit. So on the next one, we're going to hit equals. We're going to take cell C3, slash for divided by, and then cell C6 for our 25, and it should give us 0.28. And then we're going to do equal, and we're going to do cell C4. We're going to divide it by our C6 and hit equal. We get 0.36, and then we're going to hit equal, and we're going to do cell C5 divided by cell C6, and we hit equal there. And then again, if we're in this box underneath here and we do auto sum and hit enter, it should give you the number 1. Now, if I want those to be percentages instead of the decimals, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply each of those by 100. So I'd click on there and edit my formula and do times 100. The absolute is the times, or the asterisk is the times. So I'm adding the asterisk and then 100 so that it has times 100. And then it gives you the percent instead of the decimal. So depending on which way you want your data to display, either as the decimal, the total should be 1, or as the percent, my total would be 100, depending on what you would want to do there. Now for the group frequency distribution, I went ahead and put in all of my numbers so we wouldn't have to take the time while I was recording to put them in. But you would want to type all of your numbers into column A. And so I did mine going up and down, but you could go across, doesn't matter what orders, just so you get all of them in there. And so entered all my numbers into column A. I'm going to enter my upper class boundaries into column B, starting with 39.5 with a class width of 10 and ending it with 99.5. So I'm just going to start with 39.5 and add 10 each time. 49.5, 59.5, 69.5, 79.5, 89.5, and 99.5. So I've got my class boundaries on there from 39.5 ending with 99.5 with a class width of 10. I'm going to select the Data tab and click on Data Analysis. So I'm going to go Data, and way over here to the right hand side you should see where Data Analysis is. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select histogram, which is already selected because we did a histogram before. I'm going to hit OK. My input range is going to be column A, so I'm going to have, for my input range, might have to click and highlight what's in there just to make sure it has the right thing because it's got the stuff from before. So I'm going to start with A1, and I'm going to slide all the way down to A50 for my input range. My bin range, same thing. I want to click on there and get rid of what's in there, so I clicked and dragged over the top to highlight it, but I'm going to do from 39.5 to 99.5. And so I have in there. So I have my input range, which is my data in column A, my bin range, which is my data in column B. Again, you might have to click and highlight it so that you can change it from what might be in there from a previous problem. And then you should be able to click and drag and get your information in there. Okay, this time we're going to click output range. We're going to click in the box next to output range. And right now it says D3, but we're going to go ahead and click up there on D1. I'm going to click the box next to cumulative percentage. I don't want the chart output this time. We're just going to go with the cumulative percentages. So the only box that should be checked is that one. And then I'm going to click OK. Now, if you need to, again, you can adjust your column width so that you can read everything and move things around. Basically, then, that is what you're going to have for a group frequency distribution. It counts your frequencies for you and gives you the cumulative over here if you're looking for that. The next one here is using Excel to create a frequency polygon. So it tells us that they want us to label column A data, column B midpoints, and column C frequency. Again, if you want to make any of those columns wider, you can just grab the handle there when you have it that crosshair and widen those out if you want to. So we're going to use the data from the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and start typing in my data, starting with the 62. So 62, 82, 79, 76, 73, 70, 67, 64, 61, 80, 79, 75, 72, 60, 60, 60, 71, 71, 74. And so we have 19 that we should have here. It goes from 2 down to 20. We should have 19 numbers in there. Again, if you wanted to count that, you could type in equal count and then go ahead and highlight 2 to 20, and you can see here, didn't get my parenthesis in there, equal count parenthesis, and then if I do from 2 to 20, close my parenthesis, you can see that you have 19 things there just to make sure you have them all typed in. So I've got my 19 items that are in my data. My midpoints, I have to calculate my midpoints. So to calculate my midpoints, first of all, I have to find my class boundaries. So my initial class boundary is 59.5. My ending class boundary is 84.5. I would subtract 84.5 minus 59.5, which is 25. I want 5 classes of equal width, and so if I divide 25 by 5, each of my class widths is 5. So I would start with the 59.5 and add 5. So my class boundaries would be 59.5, 64.5, 69.5, 74.5, 79.5, and 84.5. Now we don't want the class boundaries here, we want the midpoints of the class boundaries. So then you would have to find the midpoints by taking the two ends of each section and divide it by 2. For example, on the first section, you would take the 59.5 to the 64.5, add those together, which is 124, and divide by 2. So 62 is going to be my first one. Since my class width is 5, I can then just keep adding 5. So 67, 72, 77, and 82 would be the midpoints of each section. But then they tell us that we need to anchor the ends. So we need 2 more sections in there. So what I'm going to do is highlight these. I'm going to hit Control C to copy, go down a box, and Control V to paste. So I really want to start with 5 less, which would mean my beginning number is going to be 57 for an anchor. Whoops, that was supposed to be 82. And then I want 5 more, so I want 87 to be my other anchor. So I'm going to have 57, 62, 67, 72, 77, 82, and 87. Then I'm going to count how many are in each class. All right, so continuing on here with our frequency polygon, we've got our data in, we've got our midpoints figured out. Now we have to calculate the frequency. Now since this top one is just a holder or an anchor for your stuff, the frequency there is going to be 0. And then I'm going to count up the data that goes into each section. Now when I count, I have to be careful. I'm not looking at the midpoints. I'm looking at what we calculated for the class boundaries. So the first class boundary said to go from 59.5 to 64.5. So from 59.5, I'd be starting at 60 to 64.5. I include the 64. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. So I'm going to put 6 in for my frequency. My next section would be from the 64.5, which means I'm going to start at 65 and go to 69.5. So the numbers between 65 and 69, I only have one of them, 67. The next boundaries, I'd be going from 69.5 to 74.5, which means I'm going to count the numbers from 70 to 74. So 70 to 74, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values go in there. The next section there is supposed to go from 74.5 to 79.5. So I'm going to count 75 and go up to 79. So from 75 to 79, I have 4 values. And then my last section, I'm going from 79.5 to 84.5. So I'm going to go from 80 to 85. And so I have 2 in that section. And again, the last one is just your anchor, so you're going to put 0 there. So you should have a 0 at the beginning and a 0 at the end. Your anchors to hold down your frequency polygon. So once I have those in there, I am going to drag over the frequency column, including the word frequency. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drag over that column right there. I'm going to go to the Insert tab up here on the top. So where it says Insert, I am going to insert a line chart. So before it just said line chart, but now it says line, insert line or area chart on 2016. So look for that one there. It looks like there's a bunch of lines. If I click that, I'm going to click just this first one that's in the 2D section, the very first 2D line chart. So I'm going to click on that. And I see I have a frequency polygon here. Again, if I want to move it around, I can move it around. But you'll see right now the numbers just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I really want it to have the midpoints for the label. So what I'm going to do is right-click on my graph, and in that, about halfway down, you'll see the option that says Select Data. So I'm going to click on Select Data, and I want to edit the horizontal axis. So right here under that second box where it says Horizontal Category Axis Labels, I'm going to click on the word Edit, and then I'm going to highlight what I want to use for my labels, which is the 57 through the 87. Once I have those highlighted, you'll see that on the chart they changed. I'm going to hit OK. And then again, I'm done with that next box, so I'm going to hit OK a second time on the bigger box. Now I have my chart. Now, if I want to have labels on here, because I don't have any labels, I would probably want to have a different chart. So you'll notice that if you go up to the top where it says Chart Layouts, there's a Quick Layout option. Under Quick Layouts, I like to pick the one down here on the bottom left-hand corner. It's layout number 10, where it's got a whole bunch of choices of different ones. If there's ones there that I don't want, I can always delete them off. So I'm going to click on that. For example, I don't really need this frequency thing, so I can just delete that out of there. I'm going to change my titles. So down here, I'm going to have on my horizontal axis the heights and in inches. And for my vertical axis, I'm going to have frequency. And then I'm also going to change this. This is a frequency polygon, so I'm going to change the title and just add polygon on there. And now I have frequency polygon. And so now I have that. Now, when you are printing from Excel, if the chart is highlighted and you go to print, it's going to print just the chart that you have highlighted. If you want the entire sheet printed, go back and click off of that and then go up to File and Print, and it will print the sheet. Now you probably want to make sure you're in landscape, which is what I'm in, because if you're in portrait, it's going to cut it off and it's not going to fit. So make sure you change it to landscape orientation or move your chart down to the bottom, whichever way you want to do it, depending on how you want your data. If I took my chart and grabbed it and I moved it down here, and then when I went to print, if I put it in, whoops, I got to unclick off my chart. And then if I put it in portrait orientation, then the whole thing fits. So it just depends on what you're printing, where you want to print it, how you want it viewed, if you just want the chart, that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind, that you can change it to landscape orientation instead. You can move that chart around. If you don't want that data that you have typed in showing and you just want the chart, make sure you have the chart highlighted, and then when you print, you can see what you have there. For me, I'm going to have you print it with the data, and that way if the chart isn't showing up right, I can see what you had in for data to see if you had something typed in incorrectly. The next one we're going to create is an ogive. I always say that wrong. Ogive. It's a cumulative frequency polygon. We're going to do it from the table that is down on the bottom. So the first thing we're going to do is enter our upper class boundaries for our x-axis in column A. Now in here, the upper class boundaries are just the same as the numbers along the bottom of your chart. So I'm going to have 860, 880, 900, 920, 940, and 960, and I'm going to put those in there. Column B is your cumulative frequency. For 860, you're going to use a cumulative frequency of 0 because you don't have any data up to 860. From 860 to 880, you have 0.12. And now since this is cumulative, you're going to add. You're going to take your 0.12 plus your 0.20, and so for up to 900, you're going to have 0.32, and then you're going to add the 0.36 to that. So you're going to have 0.68, and then you're going to add the 0.20 to that. So you get 0.88, and then your total, 0.88 plus 0.12, should always add up to 1. 1 if I type 1 in. That's all you're going to do when you put your table in there. You're going to have your upper class boundaries and then the cumulative totals, and it always should add up to 1, or if it's in percents, 100%. So we're going to click and drag over the cumulative frequencies, which is your column B. We're going to click Insert from the toolbar, and then again we're going to do a line tool. So we're going to go Insert. Over here where it says the line or area chart, again, we're going to hit the drop down and we're going to click that first 2D chart again because we're still doing a frequency polygon. It's just we're using cumulatives. Once we have our chart there, again, if you want to move it around, you can move it around. If you right click on the chart and click Select Data, whoops, I got to get it to go. Right click and select Data. Again, you might want to change those. Of course, you do want to change them because you don't want it say 0 or 1 to 6. You want it to have these labels. So again, we're going to edit. We're going to highlight our class boundaries and hit OK. Now you see that they've changed on your frequency polygon. Again, we might want to add the labels to our chart, so I'm going to hit OK to close that. And I'm going to go up here to where it says Quick Layout. Under Quick Layout, again, I like that bottom one because it has the most options, and I can always delete off the stuff I don't want. I don't need this series thing, so I can get rid of that. I'm going to change my horizontal axis as to the chart. It says carrying load in pounds per square inch. So I can type that in, if I could type right. Square foot in pounds per square foot, it says, if I read. Don't have a title over here. It actually does. It says relative frequency over there. Or you could put cumulative frequency. That would probably be a better title. So I'm going to use cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency. And my chart title, I'm going to say that it's my ogive chart. And so I'm going to give that for a name. And it looks otherwise pretty good. Probably don't need any other labels, but it looks sort of like giving me the information. Like I said, if you wanted to put this as relative frequency instead of cumulative frequency, you could also put that in there. And that's basically all there is to that ogive chart. Next, we're going to recreate that bar chart. It doesn't give us the exact data, so we are going to have to just kind of estimate. It wants us to enter the labels for the x-axis in column A. So I am going to put the labels down along the bottom. Manufacturers, automobiles. And then we have competitors. Ones. Automobiles. And then we have I can spell competitor twos. Automobiles. I better fix the other one. Oh, man, I can't spell competitor on either of them. Let's try that again. C-O-M-P-E-T-I-T-O-R. All right, so we've got manufacturers' automobiles, competitor 1's automobiles, competitor 2 automobile. Again, if you want to widen that column, put that crosshair between the A and B column, slide that over so it's wide enough so you can see everything in there. Then it says enter the corresponding frequency data in column B. This is where you're going to have to estimate from the graph. You can't tell exactly what it is, but you can see that manufacturer automobile is just above the 98, and it's between 98 and 99, so we'll say that is about 98.1, 98.2, somewhere in there. I'm going to put 98.1. Competitor 1, it's between the 97 and the 98. It's maybe about halfway. 97.4, we'll say, or 97.5, somewhere in there. And then the next one is just a little bit above the 96. Let's go with 96.2. Again, we're just going to have to estimate the data from the picture there. So I got my labels in column A, my data in column B. I'm going to highlight both those two columns. And then I'm going to go to the Insert menu up at the top on the tabs, and I want to insert column. So if you look over here, that very top one under the charts, if I hold my cursor over there, it says Insert Column or Bar Chart. So we're going to click on that. And then we have to pick the view that we want to view. I like the one with headings and labels. Let me put a bar chart in there. There we go. If I hold my cursor over the top, if you slide over, you can see different views. That one just has the bars a little wider. That one we probably don't want. I'm going to just go ahead and go with that first one there. We'll just go with that first one. Now if you need to make your graph a little bigger, you can grab the corner and resize it. If you want to move it around, you can move it around. You want to change the title on there, so we want to change this to Vehicles on the Road. I'm just going to click where it says Chart Title and highlight it so I can type in Vehicles on the Road. And I've got my labels. Other thing I might want to do is, I don't have a title over here on the side. Let me see if I can find a different one under the Quick Layout. So if I go over here to Quick Layout, let's see if I can find one that has labels along the side. There we go. So I picked that one right there. It was this one over here, Layout 6. Puts my layout on the side. I don't know where that came from. I'm going to just get rid of that one because I don't want that, but I do want a title over there. The title over there says % of cars on the road. So I'm going to change that to % of cars on the road. All right. Let's see, what else do they have on here? They have different data along the sides. All right, the other thing we need to do is we need to change the information where they are labeling the axis. We just want it to say 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on those numbers, and you want the one with the 3 bars. That may be closed. It'll look like this. Axis options is what you want to look at. So we're going to go to the axis options. We want the minimum to be 95. We want the maximum to be 100. And then the units, we want to go up by 1. And then you can see over here, now it has the 90. Whoop, changed to 94. Let me switch that to 95 again. Decided to automatically change it on me. 95, maximum to be 100, and then we want to change those. And so I have the major axis at 1. Now we have 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100 like it looks on that previous thing. Again, if you would want to change the color of the bars, if you double click there on the bar and go to that first one, fill, you can change the color. Whoop. I got solid line. Fill. Oh, I got the line. There, get on the fill, I can change my colors. Over here, if I wanted to make different colored bars, and etc., so that you can make your chart how you want your chart or to match your chart up. Next we have a pie chart that we're going to recreate. we're going to enter the headings in column A, which would be our blood types. So in column A, we have A, B, O, and AB. Enter the frequency in column B. So for A, if you look at your chart, you have 20%, B is 28, O is 36, and AB is 16. Highlight the data in columns A and B, so we'll highlight those. Select Insert, and then over here in the middle where you have the chart, you're going to do the pie chart. So it'll say Insert Pie or Donut Chart now. I'm just going to take that top one there. Again, we might want to go to the quick layout over here and change the view so that it looks closer to what we want to have. I'm going to click that drop down under chart layout, and I think I'll go with just that first one there. That looks pretty much like I want. A chart title, and each of those are there. So I'm going to pick layout 1. My chart title, if I go up there and change my chart title, I can change that. Blood type for armed forces recruits. Oops, I had my caps lock on. That didn't work very well. Let me try that again. Blood type for armed forces recruits. And again, if you want to move your chart around, you can move your chart around. If you would want to change a color of a section, you could click on that section, go over here to the fill and line, and then you could change the color. Maybe I want to have it green, and oh, that did the whole pie chart, not just my slice. Let me try that again. I'll change that one to blue then. Make sure just the slice is selected, and then you could change the colors if you wanted to change the colors. Ah, I got the whole pie chart again. Undo. Just the slice. Sometimes it's hard to see what you have highlighted. If you wanted to move these labels, you can pick them up and drag them around and move them to wherever you would want on there. Other than that, there's not much else to editing that. It looks pretty much like the one we have there. Next, we're going to do a Pareto chart, a vertical bar chart with no gaps between the bars to represent frequencies for sorted categorical or qualitative data in descending order. So first it says to enter the labels for the x-axis in column A. So my labels for my x-axis, we have O, B, A, and AB. Then it says enter the corresponding frequency data into column B. And so if I go to column B here, I have 9, 7, 5, and 4. The labels and data are always entered in descending order according to frequency. If it's not in descending order, you would have to sort your column, but our column is in descending order, so we don't have to worry about doing a sort. But make sure you put them in descending order, either manually or go ahead and highlight and sort that. We are then going to highlight column A and column B, insert, and then we're going to go to the column one. Again, it says column or bar chart. And I'm just going to pick that first one again. If you want to double click on that, you can again go to the quick chart layout and find one that has the labels so that you can put the labels in there as you would want to have. So I'm going to pick layout 6 like I did before. Again, you can change your titles. Click on my chart title there. Highlight it, if I can get it highlighted. Blood type for armed forces recruits. Oops, I got my caps lock on again. This one over here says it's frequency. And I guess that's all the titles I have. Again, if you want to change the font size or something, you can highlight the text and change the font size. You can change the color by changing the fill. The other thing I need to put on here is your gap width. Again, if I click on the bar, I'm going to double click on the bar there. I want to go to the one with the 3 bars and make sure the gap width is 0 because I don't want to have anything in there for my gap width. And then I'm going to change the color by clicking on a bar, clicking on the fill, and then changing the fill colors to different colors. And it looks like I have it pretty close in there. If I wanted to change the side of this so my labels match up, I could click on those again, click on the chart bounds, my minimum, I want it 0, my maximum, I want it 10. I want this to go by 2s, so I'm going to change that to 2. And now it has 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 like it shows on there. I have this extra thing in here I don't want. I'm going to click on that and delete it. And now it pretty much looks like, oops, I need a label down on the bottom that I didn't have. So I got to find a different layout because I need to put blood type down at the bottom underneath my label. So let me go to a different layout that has that on the bottom. There we go. If I pick layout 8 instead of layout 6, now I can change it so it says blood type down there on the bottom. And now it should look pretty close to what they have there recreating. That's called a Pareto chart where it goes in descending order. Oop, I moved my chart around. I wanted to move the whole thing. There we go. I can move the whole thing and it should look something like that. Next we're going to do a time series graph. We're going to enter the years in column A. So I'm going to go here over to column A, 1980, 1985, 1990, 1995, 2000, 2005, and 2010. In column B, we're going to enter in the frequency. So for the populations, 560.6, 625.1, 692.9, 749.1, 860.7, 956.1, and 1065.5. Next it says to highlight column B, so I'm going to highlight the data in column B. I'm going to go to the insert, so up here on the top, insert. I'm going to go over here to my charts. I'm going to insert the one that says line or area chart. Again, I'm just going to pick that first one and then I'm going to edit it from there like I have before. We want to change this data down here at the bottom. If you remember, if you right click on the chart, you can go to select data. And under the horizontal, I'm going to slide that over, horizontal categorical access labels. We want to edit that, so I'm going to click on the word edit, and then I'm going to highlight column A because that's what I want my labels to be down there. And I'm going to hit OK. You'll notice it changed the labels on the bottom of your chart. I got to hit OK again to close that up. I also want to have one where I can put in my labels of my chart, and so instead of having this chart layout, I'm going to go up here to the chart layouts and to the quick layout like I did before, and I'm going to pick one. I like to pick one with the most information on. I want one with titles on the bottom and all of that, so I'm going to go ahead and pick layout 10. I can always get rid of stuff I don't want, but now I can change my labels. Down here in the bottom, I want that to say year. Over on the side, I want that to say population in thousands. And for my chart title, I want that to say Calgary's population growth. I'm going to highlight that. Let's see. So I've got those in there. I don't want the series 1 thing, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to click on it and just delete that out of there. Only other thing I might want to do is to get it to look pretty close to the one. The side labels all look the same, is to change my line. I'm going to click on the line, and then if this first one that says fill in line is not selected, click on fill in line, and instead of using line, I'm going to use markers so I can put those dots in there. Under the marker options, which is your top one, if I open that up by clicking the arrow, instead of using none, I'm going to use built-in. And for the type, I'm going to use the built-in circles. And now if I click somewhere, I can see on my chart, I have all my dots on there. I've got my time series chart that looks pretty close to the one that is in my picture there that I was trying to recreate. And so I have that all done.